Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos, I'm going to show you how to build this. This is the Hooch multi-bucket tower arrangement. This is a self-watering hydroponic tower utilizing the Hooch multi-buckets in a vertical arrangement which feeds from the top and drips down onto each progressive level into a reservoir which is powered by a pump on a timer. This vertical hydroponic system is going to liberate the small spaces in your backyard or courtyard, and even in some apartments utilizing supplemental lighting, into productive spaces that you can grow your own herbs, leafy greens, and even some fruiting plants. So what we're making today is going to put the multi in the Hooch multi-bucket. This, in addition to future videos where we're going to explore a ton of different arrangements that you can have this multi-bucket system in. So what you'll need today is galvanized stainless steel tube. Now you can use anything really as long as it is 16mm tubing. This specific stuff is 16 times 1.2 millimeters at 3 meters. I've got 2 of them, and that's going to allow us to cut them in half and have 4 1.5 meter rods, which is going to give us the whole height of our system. You'll also need these. These are Hooch multi-buckets. This is the packaging that they come in. We will actually not be utilizing the legs for the final system. However, we will be utilizing the legs. So just go ahead and put them together. We will be removing the legs once they are on the system. I'm not sure how many I'm going to be using. I'm going to assess the height of the system as I put it together. I'm also going to be using these. These are steel hose clamps. You also need a bucket. Now I'll just say it once so that it's done. All of this is available on the Hydroland website. The pumps, the hose clamps, the net cups, the Hooch buckets, except for the larger stuff like the steel rod, which isn't postable. So you just get that from your local hardware store. You'll also need a bucket. So to do this, we're going to measure halfway along our pipe, the pipes that we've bought, whatever length they are. But mine are 3 meters, so I need to measure along 1.5 meters. So to cut, I didn't want to use any power tools, so this is a tube cutter. It's just a cheap one from a hardware store, and I think it was like $5. So this is really cheap. I'm going to show you how simple it is. So we just put our tube into these 2 rollers, and we do up our cutter like so, and then you just twist it around, right? And then you do it up some more and twist it around, and then do it up a bit more, and you just keep doing that until you've cut the pipe. Oh, there we go. It's cut. So that will just like so. And we have our 2 poles that we're going to mount our buckets onto. I'm going to do the same with this one. Okay, so here's the magic. What we're going to do is we're actually going to put our pipes into place. And we're going to slide them into place, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it over here because I've got a massive light above me. Just so you know what I'm talking about. And that's so that all the plants that are behind me survive. What we're actually trying to achieve here is we're going to slide our pipes through our Hooch bucket holes. It'll just fit like so, and the Hooch buckets will support themselves. As you can see here, the pipe, it just slides straight through the hole in the side of the Hooch bucket. It's even enough to support the pole as is. There is kind of an order of operation here though. So what we want to do first is we want to add in our hose clamps over the base of the hole, because as you can see, there's a slit which allows you to use the hose clamp and press the Hooch bucket around the pipe. We just press our hose clamp on to the base of that like so, and have this facing out so you can adjust it. And I don't think we'll need to do this for every corner. I'm just going to do opposing corners. And then when we stack them onto our pipes, I'm going to have those opposing corners alternate so that it's kind of a bit more rigid, if that makes sense. First bucket's done. I can slide our poles in. You want to get these hose clamps as loose as possible. I would recommend getting hose clamps that are slightly larger than you need for this, because I've got the ones that are exactly the size and I don't think that they're going to be appropriate. If in doubt, zip ties. And I actually think the zip ties are probably going to be cheaper too. I don't know whether they're going to work as long, like longevity wise. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. Huh, how good. I'm actually gonna work from the ground now because too high. Too many plants. This is probably where vertical video would come in quite handy. So we're just gonna slide it over top of our pipes. Perfect. This is going to be interesting. At this point, we don't even need the feet. I was actually going to fill them up before I put them on the system, but once I've got them on the system, there's no point taking it off. Before I fix them in place, I want to add the base. The base is going to be this bucket. You'll need to mark out the position of each of the legs on the bucket lid and drill them out or cut them out in some way. So to make the holes in the lid so that our system fits in the bucket, trace around where you want these legs to come through. We're going to put a big hole in the center as well because we're going to have our net cup drop through the bottom. Probably a step drill for this one, dead center of those holes, and make them as big as we've marked them. And into the center, we just put a large hole so that our net cup can drop through it. While we're here, we are going to need a hole for our 13mm tubing to come out of, and it's going to follow up one of the stainless steel pipes. So we just put in a hole next to one of our other holes as well. We want a hole for the cord for the pump to come out of. So what we might actually do is, you could just use scissors for this because it's not that thick. Take a piece of the edge out like so. I can actually remove these legs completely, like so. Now, to predict what some people are going to say is that galvanized stainless steel pipe going to be in the nutrient solution? Yes. Is that going to do anything? I'll let you know. I can't predict the future, but if there's any negative effects, I will just tell you. This is what it looks like. You can see the hole for our pump and our power cord. It is actually remarkably stable. Like, pretty happy with how this is going together. I can slide this one down now. Now I'm just gonna figure out how many buckets I want. I think I'm gonna go 4 because there seems to be enough room. I don't even know if we'll need to put zip ties on these to keep them in place. Put our other buckets on top. Okay, let's divide this up equally. 300. So it looks like I'm going to be able to give each bucket about 300, maybe even a little bit more millimeters of height. Then we'll have one at the top as well. And I'm just going to use that top bucket to conceal the pipes at the top that have a little bit of like a sharp edge because they're the ones I cut. And we can bring our other buckets up a little bit because it gives us a little bit of extra height. You probably don't need to zip tie these, but I would just to stop them wiggling over time. That's what I'm gonna do. You just pull a zip tie around the bottom part that has the slit in it. We'll do it up, however neat you want it, like so. And we'll just cut it. 2 zip ties per each. Cut. Cool, I'm very happy with that. So I'm gonna go along and do the rest. And obviously you can have as many of these buckets as you like. I'm just trying to give them a little bit of headroom so that they can, you know, grow. Like that's sturdy as. So I just wanna give you a quick idea of how you remove the system for res cleaning, and it's pretty simple. You just pick it up and put it next to your res. I'm gonna put the pump on a quick disconnect so that you can just have the pump and all the cable remain in there, and you can just clean out your reservoir. And I'm gonna put a float valve in this, of course, as well, so that you don't have to keep topping it up. Let's set up the pump and plumbing configuration. So out of the pump, I'm actually going to have a tap directly come out to connect up the pump to our irrigation tubing. This is going to allow us to regulate the flow coming out of the pump because I think the flow is going to be way too strong. These are all stainless steel and they're relatively cheap as well. So that just fits on top of our pump. That will go directly into our reservoir. So this just fits in our reservoir, just wherever, at the bottom, in the middle, to the side, however you'd like it. Just make that handle accessible to you so that like you can just put your hand into the nutrient solution and adjust. Maybe have it at the side, because when we put the float valve in, we want somewhere to work with. In this style, you could have a ball float like this, or like this, or you could have a vertical float like this. I am going to use a ball float like this because there shouldn't be anything that gets in the way of the float in this system. So to install this, I'm just going to drill a hole in the side. I like to give myself a fair bit of headroom because when that pump turns off, there will be nutrients returning still, and this may have filled up. So you want some extra room on top to essentially allow for the returning nutrients to also have room. From here, we attach our 30mm pipe, and we just want this to be as high as the system essentially, maybe a little bit longer. We connect that up to our pump, and these taps have a push on connection like so, and that will just fit down into the base of our reservoir, and our lid will fit over the top of both the hose and the power cord. We can slide our Hooch buckets on top, and we can zip tie our tubing to one of the pipes. At the top, we're gonna cut it like so. We're gonna zip tie it in place, but I'm also gonna put an elbow into it so that our nutrient solution gets pushed into our top bucket like so. I'm just gonna come along and clean up all these zip ties. And I just want to take a minute to appreciate how neat that system looks. This is meant to be the ugly side, the side that you don't face because it's got the pipe. But even on the ugly side, it's not too bad. And you can sort of just like, the whole thing is like sturdy as. Once it gets some weight into the base there, that's going to be incredible. There it is. And I guess we can fill it up and see how it runs first before we start planting it out. I might connect up this float valve and let it refill, or let it fill for the first time, really. So let's put it in its place. It's gonna live right here. I've got a power point down here that I can run the pump off. The reservoir that I'll be feeding it off is like just here, and it'll be nicely in the background of my set. So that's good. Because I'm trying to make everything as simple as possible, I'm just adding in a quick connect to the float. I can connect up my hose like that. And if I lift this whole contraption on top off, and the pump comes out this way as well, and that can just stand beside, and you can see that the reservoir is filling up our bucket. So this is filling up with 2.5 EC, between 5.5 and 6.5 pH hydroponic nutrient. Just the diamond spec tea and nitro cal. Okay, so we're full, and I'm just gonna place our system with our pump straight into our container. So just try to make sure that you're not gonna hit that float valve. Just want to try and make sure that pump's also stuck to the bottom. We can plug it in. Oh, no, turn that down. There we go. Look at that. So I've got enough just to feed like so. You can see there. And that is feeding from one level to the next. And obviously this is going to be a lot slower once we have it filled with media, and there won't be anywhere near as much splashing as that. So I'm going to turn it off. That's actually perfect. And we can start filling the system with media. Okay, so I have here, this is a cocoa scoria mix. There is a little bit of perlite in there, but that's not going to make any difference. 50-50 cocoa scoria. I'm just going to fill each level Now this is just the mix I have on hand. Cocoa perlite would work just as well. So I haven't filled them all the way up because I want to plant into these as well. This is what I'll be planting today. So I'm making a herb garden, essentially an indoor herb garden. I've got a curry plant, I've got oregano, rosemary, thyme, and basil. At the top, I'm gonna have the ones that I know are gonna grow tall. So the curry plant and the rosemary are gonna go at the top, and then I'm gonna have the shorter ones throughout. The basil will grow up and around everything, so I don't really need to worry about that. The oregano is going to stay short and sort of fall over the top of things, and the thyme will as well. So I might have the thyme and the oregano at the bottom. I'll have the basil in them almost at the top as well, I think, actually. I'm just gonna knock off the soil. So I wanna get rid of as much soil as possible because this is hydro. I'm also going to, because these are store-bought, treat them with a pesticide with a withholding period, because I do not want any pests introduced into my studio. So these are just gonna be planted straight in like so. Sorry, the oregano is gonna go at the bottom because I just know it's gonna fall over everything. And our curry plant is already massive. I'm interested to see what the roots do, whether they come out the bottom of these, and the rosemary as well. I may have doomed this system because it might get too top heavy. It'll literally just be a matter of trimming them. As much as you need to trim, I guess, to manage the plants, even if you're not going to use the trimmings. Very interested to see how this system performs. And I don't need to add lights because if you're doing it like a normal person, you'd have this outside. But since I'm not a normal person, I have this massive light up here, which is going to provide enough light coming down onto my herb garden as well as the rest of my plants. I'm going to fill this up with media so that's nice and tidy. Our buckets are now full and they've all got scoria in them. I want to turn on the pump and test the system. There we go. Okay, so a pump's working on top, as you can see there, and it is just feeding into the first bucket. Pump's feeding and it's just started coming through and it's just dripping through onto the next level. Now this is kind of what I want. I want it to sort of just feed, drip through, feed like that, and then eventually get down to the next level, which will drip through feed. But I would actually have the pump stop now, maybe not on the first run through. I'll get this cocoa nice and wet, but you can see here that it's just falling into the next bucket, which will then start to feed into the next bucket. There we go. Which will then start to feed the next bucket and so on and so forth down to the bottom bucket. Oh, we're overflowing on the top. What that tells me is we're feeding too fast. A minute of pump and we'll turn that pump down. So once this is completely saturated, which it is right now, we can probably just turn that on for like 15 seconds and then have it run every like few hours. And that will be absolutely adequate to keep all these buckets topped up. And we're just gonna chuck a timer on the pump and the lights on a timer. Last minute, I've decided that having a tap on the top is going to be the best idea. It means that you can control the flow at the top rather than having to get into the reservoir every time. So I'll turn this on. I only want that to be like a dribble. See how that's flowing like that? That's too much already. So we're going to turn that down half, and that'll slow the rate that the pump's working. And to reduce wear on the pump, you could actually have another tap in the bottom that's forcing water down into the nutrient solution, which will aerate the nutrient solution and it will prolong the life of the pump as well. So this timer only goes down to a minute. So I've actually reduced the flow to like this because I just want to make sure that I don't overflow the top bucket. I'll set up the time-lapse cameras and we're good to go. And will you have a look at that result? In fact, will you have a look at this result? The studio is looking incredible, and I feel like the obsessive nature of my hobbies was on display in that time lapse. Now here we have a truly unexpected result. I expected it to work, but I didn't think that it would work this well. As you can see, all of our plants are extremely healthy. We have our thyme and oregano waterfalling over the top of the bottom buckets with our sage. Our basil has grown up and towards the light, and so has our curry plant and our rosemary as well, even though the rosemary has actually been shaded a little bit by the curry plant, which is doing remarkably well. If I get you off that tripod, we can have a look at the root situation. And as you can see, there are no roots protruding out of the bottom of that bucket. There's a couple of little roots coming out of here, but in general, they are all air pruned essentially. So if we come under here, again, no roots. So the roots are all consolidated within each of their own buckets, which is working exactly the way that I wanted this system to function. Now I haven't looked in the reservoir. It was only connected up to the float valve for, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, and I've just been topping it up with a watering can ever since because the reservoir's gone. What I would like to do is I want to have a look in the base to see how the stainless steel is holding up. You can just lift it off. So we've got everything there. Oh, we are almost empty. That's interesting. I really would like to have that filling up on this float valve. I just don't have a res here at the moment to do it. I'm going to fill this back up with nutrient now. That pump's probably been running dry. As you can see, there's nothing. Whoop, and that's just turned on now. And actually, that I don't know how long that's been dry for, but it does look like there's not been any nutrient escaping from these cups. But as you can see, the system is extremely hardy, which is fantastic. How dry is this? Oh, it's actually quite moist. So it can't have been not running for long. Yeah, I just need to keep on top of that because, yeah, obviously the float valve isn't attached. Oh, I keep brushing past all these herbs, and the smell in here is just incredible. The mixture of basil and curry plant. What an amazing aroma. This is fantastic. I am actually blown away by the success of this system. There's another way that I'd like to propose that this system is run. If you had stands of these, so say you have one here, one next to it, one after it, you could actually run a 90mm pipe similar to this underneath them and catch all of the runoff, and then go down to a larger res and feed back in the top. So you could have a whole wall of these sort of vertically set with a 90mm pipe beneath them, and that would be an incredible use of like a wall garden. Imagine that. In fact, I don't want you to imagine it because I'll build it. I think I'm going to build it because this is just, this works so well. All right. Put it back together. A fantastic result. Thank you for joining me today on Hoochos. Happy hydroponicking, and I will see you next time on Hoochos.